It's Electric Picnic 2011, and I'm joined by the guys from White Lies who are playing here a little later on. Hello, how are you? How's things going? And welcome to Ireland. And tell us how things are happening and what's the vibes.
All of that stuff.
And I'll walk away, and then you can talk for 5 minutes.
Well, that's all the questions in one. Yeah, everything's really good, and I'm talking for myself, and I think I talk for Harry as well when I'm saying that everything is mostly great.
Well, that's interesting because I was looking at an interview of you earlier on today. I think it was a Dutch gentleman, and who was talking about that you have a curiosity for Football Manager as a game.
Yeah. Again, that's me, isn't it?
That's you again. That's gone global, you know.
Really?
You're interested in that kind of stuff.
It's a bit depressing, isn't it?
It's not as, but you said it's not as depressing as somebody who's interested in something that's so boring I can't even remember what it was even about.
That's probably Harry, wasn't it?
What did I say about it? It is Football Manager's an incredibly boring game in my eyes, and I can't think of anything more boring.
Maybe doing interviews at festivals, possibly. No, listen. Congratulations, guys, on Ritual. It must have been the pressure after your debut album must have been incredible. The fact that it went straight to #1. Did you feel that pressure, or was it something you could absorb quite easily?
I think, to be honest, I mean, it was quite a blessing to have an album that went to #1. I don't think many people expected it from us. I don't think we expected it from us. And it just sort of made everyone sit up and take attention at a time when you need that to happen as a band. You know, your first album, you need people to notice you. You need people to know about you. And that was really it for us. You know, everywhere we went, America, Japan, Australia, first question is, oh, you had a #1 album in the UK. How does that feel?
Well, it's an obvious question.
Yeah, it is, but
it must be an amazing feeling.
Yeah, definitely. But I think you're right, and I think to us it was, we treated it like a blessing, and we have used as best as we could that success on the first record to kind of go our own way with the second record, I think, and have quite a lot of freedom with what we wanted to do with the second record.
Because I would imagine, like, when you do get that kind of, you have a #1 record, everything's gone fantastic. That there is like the dark forces of the music industry, which I have felt myself in years gone by, would want you to emulate what you've just done. Give us To Lose My Life Part 2. Just do it, please, lads, and don't be messing with all this electronic lark.
I think to some extent we didn't move too far away from what we were. It was like our second album's still definitely a White Lies record, love it or hate it.
Yeah, it wasn't like a funk out experience or anything like that.
I think we were given pretty. I mean, we get along very well with the people we work with, and we get along really well with our label. We have a good relationship, and we were given pretty free rein to do what we wanted. Although I expect if they hadn't heard something they liked on the second record, they'd have made us sit down and carry on working on it.
And have a rethink, maybe.
Yes, yeah. But fortunately that didn't happen, so we were all on the same page, which is good.
It must have been a complete whirlwind when the debut was released, because I actually looked at this morning your performance of It's Bigger Than Us on the David Letterman show. And it's just like, when I was young, watching the David Letterman show, it's just like, you've made it big time when you played the David Letterman show. But that's your second time on there, is it? Is that the case? Yeah. What's it like with having those kind of experiences? Is it kind of like banal and okay, this is all just part of the thing, or do you get excited about that stuff?
I think Letterman is one of the ones. I think there's a few which I would say I would still always feel excited, pressurised, nervous, all that kind of stuff. I think Letterman, Jules Holland back in the UK, whenever that's on, you know, we've only done that once, but I remember feeling the most nervous I've ever felt, because we did that Jules Holland after like maybe we'd done 4 or 5 live shows, and then we did that, and that was a bit much. Letterman's great. It's it's like you imagine. It's like it's quite surreal, really. It's you see all the set that you've seen so many times, and you have studio audience who are being trained to clap and laugh at the right times and all that kind of stuff, and it is as cold as everyone says. You always hear stories about how cold that studio is, and he keeps it close to
temperature-wise.
Yeah, he keeps it close to about 9 or 10 degrees or something ridiculous.
You can see your breath.
You can see your breath in it, because he doesn't like his guests to sweat. He likes them to feel cold, which is nice. Maybe he's got a sweating problem.
It's an interesting way of approaching things. And so Is this true? Like before you were White Lies, you were Fear of Flying, and you went on tour. You didn't go on tour when you were 15 years old, did you? In a UK tour, or 16.
Around that age, it must have been.
Is that
it got me
legal?
probably not. But we sort of. I mean, we had no money, and we didn't really have a way of travelling around the country. So we sort of scraped together whatever we could as a means to get from show to show. We played with a few bands. We played with the Maccabees very early on, who were very good to us, looked after us, and we still get along really well with.
Yeah.
And in fact, we're signed to the same label now. But yeah, we used to travel on like National Express coaches. We used to get people with.
And how old were you at the time?
Well, from the age of, I guess we must have been in our last 2 years of school. So I guess we must have been at least 16.
And did you have to pretend to your parents that I'm going camping down the road with my friends, but actually I'm going to play a gig in Doncaster?
I think our parents were always pretty supportive of us, actually, and it was a good experience, you know, getting yourself lost in it all and having to figure out your own problems to get back home and stuff. And we enjoyed it. We enjoyed it a lot.
Wow, it's just incredible. And a number of things you'd read about you guys in the press, and like your music is quite dark, but it's delivered in a dark way. However, you know, there is some shards of light that runs through it, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And I would imagine on people's first encounters with you, they think that you're probably fairly dour, kind of, you know, dark, introspective type people. I would think the other, that you're actually a fairly jovial bunch of gentlemen outside the realms of what White Lies does on stage. Am I wrong, or do you hang out like bats all day long?
We have a lot of fun. Yesterday, Jack took a photograph of me locked in a fridge and then put it on Twitter. It was
Kind of banter we get up to, isn't it?
Yeah.
And just earlier in our dressing room, I was swinging some dangly bits on my coat, making them look like testicles, and a young lady walked in who was from the festival and then looked very embarrassed and walked out again. So that's kind of fun you can expect from White Lies.
weird,
Gloomy.
twisted, sadistic fun. Yeah.
So is this the kind of stuff that you would see on the White Lies Extra, kind of the comedy bits with Benny Hill music running in the background?
Yeah, that's actually a really nice idea, I think. If we ever get around to making a live DVD, there needs to be some kind of extras function where you can get involved with some of the slightly more
and craziness.
Well, it's just like you have to remember that, like, being on tour with the same people for months and months at a time, if you don't find a way to get along and have a good time, then it really comes across in the live shows, I think, and that can be a bad thing. And
so what you're saying is, when you're on a tour bus, which is very, very claustrophobic, and cabin fever beyond exponentially higher than anyone can imagine, if there's fractious stuff happening on the bus, it reflects itself on stage, i.e. nobody's talking to each other.
yeah, I think so. And I think
How do you find touring like that? Because I found it very difficult.
We've been, as we mentioned earlier, talking about when we were touring when we were 15, 16 years old, and we've been friends for almost 10 years now, and I think that's what we are first and foremost. We're just really good friends, and we still get along really well together. So we've never had a problem like that on the road. We've never felt friction between any two people who,
even at this point in time, things haven't become slightly fractious.
I think less so now than ever, actually, to be honest. I think on this album we've really relaxed and found the whole touring experience a kind of bizarre and comical life to lead, and we've learnt to really enjoy, and it's a learning process. You don't just go up on stage and enjoy it. I think it takes a bit of time to understand how to enjoy that kind of experience, and some of the shows this summer especially have been the most enjoyable things we've ever done as a band, for me anyway. I feel that way. So I think we're still
You're still good friends.
still good friends. Yeah, I mean, we still hang out, which is a bit lame, isn't it? Like when we get off tour, we still all hang out
We
together.
don't really, like, when you tour as much as we do, you don't really have any friends back home because they've all left and gone other places.
You've got married and have kids.
Yeah, exactly. You can't really stay
Gotten
in
jobs
touch.
in Slough in a
Exactly.
paper
Exactly.
factory.
You can't really. It's very hard to stay in touch with people when you're never there. So we just hang out together. Just me,
So how
Jack,
do you fill
and
the other 22 hours in the day? It's
just
sleep,
sleep,
Sudoku.
Sudoku. Yeah.
You can have a really long bath if you really try. You can push a few hours on a bath.
Whiskey in bed is always good.
Whiskey
Yeah.
in bed, yeah,
Yeah.
that works. That definitely works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whiskey for breakfast.
Beer in bed. Beer
whiskey
and
for lunch.
Yeah.
And do you have an ethos of Nick Cave as this kind of thing in Brighton, where he goes to an office 9 to 5? He goes in, he treats it like, you know, borderline like a civil service job where he goes in and he works all day long. Did I
when
read
he's,
somewhere
when he's writing?
When he's writing,
Yeah.
do you do that kind of thing as well?
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
you do treat
Not
it like
quite,
not like a job, but like very disciplined.
Yeah, it's not really about discipline, but keeping good hours I think is really important. And if you're aiming to get in early to the studio every day, you tend not to focus too much on things that don't need to be focused on. You want to leave at a sensible time so that you can get up and be fresh the next day. And I think that is important actually. Yeah, I think it's really good to have a routine like that because it just keeps you focused and it just keeps your mind on.
And does
what you wanna
anybody
do.
in the band go, oh, lads, please, God's sake, I'll be there at 12. You just,
I mean, it's
you just
not-
do what you have to do.
It's not that rigid, and actually, sometimes one of us will come in to the studio much earlier than the others, and it just depends on what we're doing at the time. So, it's not super rigid, but we do try and keep it disciplined, and we do.
I think it's a very good idea because if it all goes belly up, and then you look back and you've just been pissing about not taking things seriously, you look back and go, why didn't we just take it seriously at the time? And it sounds like you're just giving it its best shot.
Yeah, and I think now more than ever, with less money in the music industry, it's really important to take studio time and use it very valuably and wisely because there's not as much of it around anymore.
No,
there's not enough money to pay for it.
You can hear every pound dropping into the jar
Exactly.
as every second in a big studio goes.
Yeah.
So listen, you're playing later on here on Sunday night at the Electric Picnic, and tell me what's happening with White Lies into the future.
Today,
Apart from World Domination and X Factor and all that stuff.
Yeah, we'll do that next album. I think this is a big show for us actually tonight. In all honesty, it's the last one that we're doing for the summer. It's the last summer festival on our schedule.
Does this mean you go absolutely completely nuts afterwards?
No, because Harry booked us on the earliest flight back to London.
Harry?
Yeah, Harry did it. It's Harry's
Did you?
fault,
What are you?
Yeah.
You were booking the flights.
Our tour manager sent an email out saying you guys can get whatever. He gave a list of flights throughout the entire day. You get whatever flight you want. And I said I want the one at 8:50 a.m.
And you did it for the rest of them.
I know these guys just followed on. So they couldn't be bothered to look at what times they were on offer, and they just went with me. So
Probably picked a later flight though, shouldn't you?
Sorry,
Anyway.
sorry, we digress there. The future in a kind of more macro sense for White Lies.
Okay, so we've got a couple of months off. We're gonna just hang out and try and enjoy a bit of downtime at home, and then we're gonna go over to Japan and South America for a few shows, which is just a little brief week-long trip, and then November, December is a massive European and UK tour, which finishes everything up on the 17th of December
And
at Wembley Arena.
Oh, Wembley
So
Arena! Oh,
that's
my
the big one.
goodness.
That's what we're finishing with on this record.
The last band I saw in Wembley Arena was Metallica, so that kind of puts it into context. That's amazing, guys. And
Thank you.
and then is that the end of Ritual, and then on to whatever's next?
Yeah, probably until someone kind of, I don't know, there'll be some tour that we have to do or something, and
Yeah.
we'll end up touring for another year. But
Okay.
if not, then yeah, we'll work on a third album next year at some point.
All right, listen, lads. Thanks very much, and best of luck tonight as well. And
cheers.
good luck with Wembley Arena.
Thank
for
you.
having us.